I was born on Thanksgiving Day, 1954, 2 months before my due date of arrival. My mother was visiting her mother. My mother grew up in Albany. My grandfather had recently died, and she was there visiting her mother when I decided to make an entrance. Albany in 1954, early 60s, was very segregated. It was black and white. There was one large swimming pool, whites only. Blacks were not allowed into the restaurants. Water coolers said, whites only or coloreds only.
And my grandmother, got a PhD in education and technology and literacy as a woman in South Georgia.
I was fortunately raised by very strong women. A mother who worked full-time and a grandmother who worked full-time. Mom was an inspiration and a big proponent of education. And she was not only the first woman, but she was the first employee of the Dougherty County school system to get a PhD. And that was a hard struggle, but I admired her fortitude and her willingness. Because when she started, she just had a bachelor's degree. And so being around them just helped me understand how strong women can be and how strong leaders they can be.
Your mom was a big advocate for literacy in Black communities.
When Mom took over Title I, she was actually the first Title I director. And the purpose of Title I was to try to educate deprived children, deprived both in literacy and probably socioeconomically as well, to try to bring them up to the appropriate reading level. And it was her mission to try to find ways to educate the children who had been poorly educated in schools where the buildings were crumbling, the books were outdated.
What did her commitment to the Black communities of Albany, how did that shape your perception and their education?
My mother was very adamant that there would be no racism in her household. And she made that clear to me from a young child, both in language and respect. The woman who raised me, Sarah, was like a third mother. She started soon after I was born and retired when I was 22. So she was a member of the family. But she also gave me opportunities. For example, the voice teacher that my sister and I took from, she went to Juilliard. She was Black. And but I never thought anything of it because Mom said, I want the best for you regardless of the color of the skin. When we integrated the schools, she made sure that I understood that my job was to get an education wherever I was going to school.
Tell me about Sarah Hightower.
Sarah grew up in a hamlet called Arlington, Georgia, outside of Albany. Never had the opportunity to go to school. She was a sharecropper's daughter, started picking cotton when she was a little girl. She was married to an abusive alcoholic husband. And one day she decided she had enough of it. And she hitchhiked from Arlington to Albany, where she found friends and stayed with them until she and my mom met up when Mom hired her. The story that I was told was that Mom had interviewed several people, and when Sarah came to the house to be interviewed, and she held me, that Mom knew there was some connection there, and she hired Sarah on the spot.
How old were you?
2 months.
And
a little bit older than you're smiling.
Well, we can say something about working moms. And what did Sarah teach you?
Sarah taught me unconditional love. That regardless of the color of your skin, devotion, loyalty, and love. I was burned in an accident. I pulled a coffee pot off the stove onto my high chair, and I was severely burned and was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And again, I don't have any memory of this, but what I've been told was that Sarah was the only person that I let hold me. She's the only person that I would, let change the dressing. So that's the kind of love I had for her.
Mm-hmm. And that she had for you.
On paper, even though there was never a contract, was called a maid. As I grew older and my younger sister grew older, her needs as a caregiver were not as much, but we wanted her there, and my mom wanted her And when she, quote, retired, I'll never forget this. You got to remember back there in the 50s and the 60s, household help was paid with cash. And so when we decided Sarah should retire or could retire, mom had to go to the bank and borrow like 20 years money to pay Sarah's Social Security and Social Security back taxes so Sarah could collect Social Security.
That's amazing. When Sarah died, what did you find out about what she had done with the money?
Sarah lived totally and solely on the income that my mom was able to pay her. And she lived in public housing. And then when Sarah died, we shockingly found out that she had a will and had left savings to me and Claire, my sister.
What happened to those savings?
We used those savings for our own education.
That's an incredible story. You grew up in the middle of forced busing and school desegregation, as you talked about.
I learned that not every child had the same education that I had when it came to racism. We were forced into from segregation into integration, and when we were, there were students that would ride around in cars with Confederate flags. They would use the N word at classmates. They would start fights, and so I was I was appalled, but I was also bewildered because that was not the kind of environment that I grew up in.